Hello there, welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. This is Cassie. Today we are working along with the 12 Days of Christmas and we are making an ornament today. So let's talk about what we are using. I have our holiday candle and Botanical die set. This is fabulous. So many great dies in there and light ups. Like as soon as I saw this, I knew it needed to be lit up because look at the back. Here are some options for you to put those pieces together. There's candles. You can spell the word joy. We are going to be using the little wreath in the middle. We're also going to be using this stamp set called Simply Sentimental Mary. And then we also have some clean cut layers, Circle A and B. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a good set of circles and rectangles and all that stuff. And then we also have our Dainty Scallop Edge Mini Slimline. I'll show you how we're going to use that. Watermelon Twinkle embellishments, and then the halo lights. These are fabulous. You've seen me use them before, and this is just way too perfect when I knew I was going to be making an ornament. So I went ahead and die cut out all the pieces I was going to need. So we've got two circles, one for a front and a back, and we're going to trim one of those circles down a little bit more. And then we have this rectangle that we've cut out, but we're going to use this Dainty Scallop Edge Mini Slimline to just add a decorative edge to one of these, well, two of these. So I've taken that rectangle and we're going to cut it in half basically, and then we'll have two pieces that will be a front and a back. And then I'm going to need to trim those down to be about an inch, but we'll do that here in a minute. I'm going to measure. So I've pulled out my halo light, and my tip for you is whatever size circle you decide to use, make sure that it is a little bit bigger than the halo light at least, because you're going to want to make sure that your foam tape will fit around it. And I'm going to be using our adhesive foam strips, so I didn't need a lot of space. But if you're using anything else, make sure that you cut your circles big enough. So now I'm basically measuring just to see how big I need those toppers for our ornament to be. And I'll tell you what, it was really kind of fun to just go through my stash of Trinity stamp stuff to see how I could decorate that edge up a little bit. Just get creative with what you have. So I trimmed those down to be about an inch. With the scallop on it, it's a little bit bigger than an inch, but I just needed the solid piece to be an inch. And so I'm going to go ahead and glue the back piece together. So we'll just put a little bit of glue at the very bottom, and then we're just going to put that right on there, lining up those edges with the circle. And then I can take my halo just to make sure that everything's going to fit on there perfectly, and it does. And again, it's left some room around the outside edge, which is what I needed. You can put your foam tape on the mechanism. You just want to make sure that you don't cover those lights or the battery or the push button or any of that. So just keep that in mind when you're making these ornaments. All right, so next I need to cut a circle in the another circle inside of the circle. So I'm pulling out my clean cut layers, and I need to find a circle that is just slightly bigger than the opening, but still smaller than the wreath itself, because we're going to adhere that wreath to the circle. So I'm running that through my die cutting machine, kind of centering that up as best I can. So yeah, I'm eyeballing it. I do that a lot. I take a lot of risk, folks. And it's probably not perfect, but it's good enough, because where it's not, that wreath will cover. All right, so I've got some string, a little bit of baker's twine, and I know it sort of looks red on camera, but it's actually more of a rose red, so it's a little more pink. It's going to go perfect with the bow that I cut out and the little twinkles that I'm going to be using. So we're going to peel off the release paper on our rip and stick paper, and I am going to go ahead and adhere down this is my ornament string, so that I can attach it to my tree. And then I'm going to use some Crafty Glue Friend around the rest of the halo light to adhere that on top. That's going to make sure that everything stays in place. You could use rip and stick tape, but I always like to just go one step further with that Crafty Glue. All right, so now it's on there. Our back is perfectly ready to go. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my adhesive. Now I do a little bit of a screw up. Normally with any other adhesive that you would have, you'd have to double it up in order for it to make sure that that mechanism is not on all the time. But these adhesive foam strips are a little bit thicker than normal. So I screwed up here and I added a double layer. You don't need to do that. In fact, it's too much if you do. So one layer of our adhesive foam strips is enough here. And so I'll end up tearing that off later. It's when I realize, wow, that really makes the button in there and you can't push it. So I'm peeling off the release paper on both sides so that I can adhere that down. And I will take off that second layer. So keep that in mind. You do not need a second layer of this particular foam tape if you're using it. All right, so there it is. I've put the foam tape all over it. Miles needs a little bit of love before he's going to head off out. You know, my quality control had to come in and check things out. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the ring, and we'll add our wreath to it. And then I'm going to pull out all the pieces that I die cut out. Now, I only took 3 of the branches, and I die cut those out of this dark green cardstock. I wanted a lighter cardstock on the background, and that darker cardstock is going to just look so good popped on top of there. And all I'm going to do is use some reverse tweezers, little dots of that crafty glue friend, and we are going to go all the way around the outside of our wreath. There is really no rhyme or reason to how I'm putting this together. Like I said, I have 3 different sizes of branches. It's not completely like uniform. And I think that's what makes it so neat. I'm just adding all those pieces in there where I think they're going to look good. And in the end, you have this really pretty wreath. And you've filled it in really nicely. Here I am just getting those last little bits. I always die cut way more than I need, which is fine because then I can take those leftover pieces and throw it inside the packaging of the die and use it for another project. But check it out. It's so fun. And I really like how that light green kind of pops up in the background. So our wreath's all ready to go. I'm going to put the bow on there just using a dot of glue so I can, you know, pop up the edges a little bit, make that look more 3D. And then I'm going to bring in the back. We'll use some crafty glue friend on there because remember I did peel off a second layer of glue, so I want to make sure that, or adhesive foam strip, so I want to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to. This is also going on my tree, so I want to make sure that, you know, this lasts for a while. Now you'll notice at the top, I did not put foam tape where the battery is. I did it on the sides, but not at the top so that I could reach the battery if I need to replace it. I want this, like I said, I want this ornament to last for years to come. So I wanted to make sure and leave a space so that I could get to the battery if needed. I'm going to stamp the word push on top, and I'm using my Stays On ink pad. I've had this ink pad since 2008, so it is a little bit old. It's stamped okay. It's a little bit faint, which was fine with me. You know, at this point I thought it was fine, so I decided to keep it there. But I think I need to replace my pad or get some more ink or whatever, because Stays On is supposed to work on mirrored cardstock, but this wasn't working so well. So I'm going to fix that later. Next, I am pulling out my Simply Sentimental Merry stamp set. And we're going to stamp the words Merry and Bright. I just figured that was so perfect for a light up card. You could do Merry Christmas. That's what makes this little Simply Sentimental set so perfect. I say it every time. If there's a Simply Sentimental set, I need it. Because it just hits all the spots and it's like they're perfect. They're just perfect. So I've trimmed those down using my guillotine trimmer. If you are good with your scissors, like I am not, as far as cutting straight lines, you could do that, but I need my guillotine trimmer, and I'm going to use my reverse tweezers, and then we're just going to stick that right inside the wreath. So those words are going to go perfectly, just fitting right inside. So now I've got this sweet little sentiment in there. And it's at this point that I'm looking at that and I realize I'm going to use a silver pen and try and write my own little dot or like star, and that looks terrible. I am not happy with that, but we're going to let it dry and then we're going to think about what we're going to do. Obviously, this is not a project you can just start over, and check that out. I had a little crack in the tip of my pickup stick, but there are replacements in there, and I've had that pickup stick since this came out, and so I was kind of waiting for that to break. But you can replace those, so that's what's great about these pickup sticks. I am now going to go and get another replacement just in case, but it doesn't happen often. I've had this since the beginning, and you've seen me use this a zillion times, but it's good to know that there are replacements for those. They just screw on and off. And I'm using those Watermelon Twinkle along with some crafty glue friend, and I'm filling in this wreath so nicely. Keep in mind that this glue is white, but it dries clear, so those twinkles will be just perfect. You'll see that in the end in the pictures. It works out really great. But here I've decided I got to cover up that hand-drawn whatever I did there. It just doesn't look good. So I've stamped the word push again. Once again, that's from the Papercrafting Magic stamp set. Stamped it on the same kind of paper that the bow was made out of. And then I'll just glue that down in place. And so again, I just love how this turned out. I hope you like it too. Oh my goodness, check it out. So it lights up beautifully back there. I'm just so happy. I can't wait to put this on the tree. And as you can see, yes, that's where you can get to the battery if you need to. All right, so here it is. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Are you making ornaments this year? I'd love to hear about it. And be sure to check out the blog, Instagram, and Facebook page for more crafty inspiration for our 12 days of Christmas. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.